This is Q60 to East Midtown 2nd Avenue. This stop is 109th Avenue and 157th Street. Next stop, Sutphin Boulevard and 109th Avenue. Transfers available to Q6 and Q6 Limited. This stop is Sutphin Boulevard and 109th Avenue. Next stop, Sutphin Boulevard and Yates Road. This stop is Sutphin Boulevard and Yates Road. Next stop, Sutphin Boulevard and Tuskegee Airman Way. Transfers available to Q6, Q6 Limited, Q40 and Q112. This stop is Sutphin Boulevard and Tuskegee Airman Way. Next stop, Sutphin Boulevard and Liberty Avenue. Transfers available to Q6, Q6 Limited, Q8, Q9, Q40, Q112 and X64. This stop is Sutphin Boulevard and Liberty Avenue. Next stop, Sutphin Boulevard and 95th Avenue. Transfer available to Q41. This stop is Sutphin Boulevard and 95th Avenue. Next stop, Sutphin Boulevard and Archer Avenue. Transfers available to E, J and Z trains, Long Island Railroad, AirTrain, Q6, Q6 Limited, Q8, Q9, Q20A, Q20B, Q24, Q30, Q31, Q40, Q41, Q43, Q43 Limited and Q44 SBS. This stop is Sutphin Boulevard and Archer Avenue. Next stop, Jamaica Avenue and 144th Street. Transfers available to Q24, Q54 and Q56. This stop is Jamaica Avenue and 144th Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and Jamaica Avenue. Transfers available to Q24, Q54 and Q56. This stop is Queens Boulevard and Jamaica Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 87th Avenue. Transfers available to Q20A and Q20B. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 87th Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 86th Avenue. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 86th Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and Main Street. Transfers available to E and F trains, Q20A, Q20B, Q44 SBS, X68 and QM21. This stop is Queens Boulevard and Main Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and Hoover Avenue. Transfers available to X63, X64, X68, QM18 and QM21. This stop is Queens Boulevard and Hoover Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 82nd Avenue. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 82nd Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and Union Turnpike. Transfers available to E and F trains, Q10, Q10 Limited, Q37, Q46, Q46 Limited, X63, X64, X68 and QM18. This stop is Queens Boulevard and Union Turnpike. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 78th Avenue. Transfers available to X63, X64, X68 and QM18. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 78th Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 76th Road. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 76th Road. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 75th Avenue. Transfers available to E and F trains and QM18. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 75th Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 72nd Drive. Transfer available to QM11. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 72nd Drive. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 72nd Avenue. Transfer available to QM18. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 72nd Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 108th Street. Transfers available to E, F, M and R trains, Q23, Q64 and QM18. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 108th Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 70th Avenue. Transfers available to QM11 and QM18. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 70th Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 68th Drive. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 68th Drive. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 67th Road. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 67th Road. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 67th Avenue. Transfers available to M and R trains, QM11 and QM18. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 67th Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 65th Avenue. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 65th Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 63rd Drive. Transfers available to M and R trains, Q38, Q59, Q72, Q88, QM10, QM11, QM18 and QM40. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 63rd Drive. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 62nd Drive. Transfer available to Q59. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 62nd Drive. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 59th Avenue. Transfers available to M&R trains. Q11, Q21, Q29, Q38, Q52 SBS, Q53 SBS, Q59, Q88, QM10, QM11, QM12, QM40 and QM42. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 59th Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 56th Avenue. Transfer available to Q59. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 56th Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and Reeder Street. Transfers available to M&R trains. Q53 SBS, Q58, Q58 Limited and Q59. This stop is Queens Boulevard and Reeder Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and Van Leeuwen Street. This stop is Queens Boulevard and Van Leeuwen Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and Cornish Avenue. This stop is Queens Boulevard and Cornish Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 74th Street. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 74th Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 70th Street. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 70th Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 69th Street. Transfer available to Q47. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 69th Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 65th Place. Transfer available to Q18. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 65th Place. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 63rd Street. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 63rd Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 60th Street. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 60th Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 58th Street. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 58th Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 52nd Street. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 52nd Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 48th Street. Transfers available to 7 train, B24, Q32 and Q104. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 48th Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 45th Street. Transfer available to Q32. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 35th Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 41st Street. Transfer available to 7 train. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 41st Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 39th Street. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 39th Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 38th Street. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 38th Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 35th Street. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 35th Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and 33rd Street. Transfers available to 7 train, Q32 and Q39. This stop is Queens Boulevard and 33rd Street. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and Skillman Avenue. This stop is Queens Boulevard and Skillman Avenue. Next stop, Queens Boulevard and Queens Plaza East. Transfers available to E, M&R trains, Q32, B62, Q67, Q100 Limited, Q101 and Q102. This stop is Queens Boulevard and Queens Plaza East. Next stop, Queens Plaza North and 29th Street. Transfers available to 7 N&W trains, Q32, Q39, B62, Q66, Q67, Q69, Q100 Limited, Q101 and Q102. This stop is Queens Plaza North and 29th Street. Next stop, East 60th Street and 2nd Avenue. Transfers available to Roosevelt Island Tram, M15, M15 SBS, M31, Q32, M57, Q101, BM1, BM2, BM3, BM4 and BM5. This stop is East 60th Street and 2nd Avenue. This is Q60 to East Midtown 2nd Avenue.